Hello. I'll be discussing a topic that to many can be controversial. It can bring back memories that I know bring back for me of playing Monopoly for 6 hours straight just to then be told that I've gone bankrupt. But thinking about Monopoly, thinking about this game that most of us have played, that is so widespread, actually tells us a lot about economic systems, about the United States, and about how we chose the society we live in today. And to look at that history, to look at Monopoly, we have to start with two people. These two people are Henry George and Elizabeth Maggie. They both existed during the reformist period from the late 1890s to the beginning of World War I in 1914. And they both played a larger influence in our current society than many give either of them credit for. Now, Henry George was a political economist and journalist. He sparked reformist movements in the progressive era, and he inspired Georgism. Now, Georgism, his namesake, is the belief that all land should be shared, that no land or no natural resource could be private property. Elizabeth Maggie, on the other hand, liked Georgism. She also picked up a piece of paper and created a game called the Landlord game. You see, the Landlord game looked like this. And it looks very similar to Monopoly as we play it today. In fact, one of its potential rule sets was the Monopolist rule set. And in many ways, apart from things like color groups, it was the game we play today. Rule set, and it could be called forward by vote of 2 players. Now, the prosperity rule set incorporated these Georgist beliefs. So, there were no taxes on necessities, such as food and water. All rent would go, instead of to people, to the public treasury, where it could be used by all to build railroads and to further society. And the game under the prosperity rule set was won not by one person at the disdain, at the bankruptcy of others. It was won by all, once the public treasury reached a certain amount of influence and of capital. This game became very widespread. It was in fact used as a teaching method in the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, and it started being played all over America, until one man ran into it. That man was Charles Darrow. And in true respect to the American patent system, he liked it so much that he copied it. And he called it Monopoly, because he got rid of the prosperity rule set. I don't think he was a fan. A couple of years later, he sold his game, his invention, to the Parker Brothers. Now, Parker Brothers is the company that owns the game to this day, owns the game we play, and the game, Monopoly, was the Landlord's game in the monopolist mode. Now, this existed during the presidency of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He introduced the New Deal, which, among other things, renewed confidence in capitalism through its integration of social services to the free market. It taught us that having access to food and water didn't have to be mutually exclusive with being able to buy a house. And he was president during the beginning and a lot of World War II. Now, World War II was the first time the average American citizen was introduced to true ideological warfare against the fascists, against a people that stood for everything America was against. Now, this ideological warfare continued into the Cold War against the Soviet Union. Now, the Cold War saw, under Senator McCarthy, prosecution of communists in the United States. It also saw mass campaigns against leftist ideals. And a post-World War II economic boom truly invigorated the economy and therefore invigorated the people. Capitalism was no longer something to be doubted, since everyone had access to resources that they so needed. And the communist Soviets and communism in general became the antagonist to the United States of America. Now, the prosperity rule set disappeared from Monopoly. The game we play today is, after all, called Monopoly. Capitalism trumped all its alternatives. The Soviet Union fell in 1991, and Monopoly became the best-selling commercial board game of all time. In fact, Monopoly is comparable even to games such as chess and checkers, which is insane to think of. Why? if we look back at our history, why did we choose the rule set where an adult had to turn to me as a child and say, "You've gone bankrupt. Hand me all your property." Why did we have to choose the system where you just have to give it your all and you might still fail? Because people didn't want to play the prosperity rule set. That was the fact of the matter. The Landlord's game was a widespread game all over the United States, yet very, very seldom did the 2 out of the 4 necessary players vote to switch to the prosperity rule set and to be able to win in conjunction. People simply didn't want that option. But why? It seems so off. We're all winning together. Well, my explanation is, it's not that not everyone wanted to win. Of course they did. But often they wanted the competition. They would only give the game their all. The game was only worth playing for 6 hours straight if they were victors. Even though statistically speaking, they most often were not. Now, for us to analyze this, we need to go into human nature. Why was Monopoly chosen? Why do we want people to go bankrupt? Because it shows that to advance society, to spend nights, or perhaps weeks even, finishing a game of Monopoly, or working on a project, doing something for your boss, or working on that homework assignment, you need competition. It is an essential part of human nature. And that is why capitalism exists, whereas communism barely does in modern day society. That is why we play Monopoly and not prosperity. Because competition is necessary for human nature, and it leads to advancement. Even though I had to turn to my little sister after a 3-hour game and say, "Well, all your property belongs to me now." Thank you.